Getting known. Use all possible methods to get your platform and candidates known. Leaflets to TV ads. Today probably includes social media. Don't overly rely on media instead of personal connections. That's really important, right? Greens already face a pretty strong media blackout. Just last month or just earlier this month, my local organized a peace in Ukraine rally, and our House candidate actually used it as to launch his U.S. House campaign. The local news covered the rally. They credited another organization that is aligned with the Democrats for organizing it, and made no mention that he announced for office. So, despite the fact that we put it on and that we had a news item, up for it, that we were completely blacked out by the local media. It's not just a national media thing. Building power isn't about getting in the news all the time. It's about building those relationships in your community on an interpersonal basis. I will say one thing I will say about the media though is know who will put you in. Right, I'm from probably what we call a medium market. We've got 100,000 people here in my town, but we're a state capital, so we've got a lot of news. Most news agencies, when we do things, only send a cameraman. They don't send a reporter, but that cameraman then gets to choose what goes in, right? So, like when we did a rally celebrating Chelsea Manning being released from prison, that it was only a cameraman that came. He asked the questions. I got to talk about imperialism on the news, and that happened because we had a relationship with. I've had cameramen tell us how to arrange ourselves to make ourselves look bigger in the shot. Because if we got our minimum wage increase that we were calling for, he would get a raise, right?
Nice.
So a lot of times it's if you don't have a relationship with the reporter, build a relationship with the local newspaper's photographer to make sure he's getting you in the shot and you're talking to him after. When you see those people, go talk to them and build that relationship, because the way that our news sector has been gutted, it was a Sinclair company that did that to us on our rally, right? A nationally owned right-wing thing. They don't have local reporters. The local reporter is that camera person that shows up. So name recognition, 80 to 90% of people have to recognize your name. But in time of distrust in government and politics, it's hard to secure voters and new members without first earning trust and making a good impression. Voters look for a bright, energetic, fair-minded candidate first. Make personal contact with local journalists. Write letters to the editor and op-eds. Contribute to local newsletters and visit local events. Upbeat, attractive display on literature and signs relating to genuine issues in local terms. And emphasize door-to-door conversations, leaving literature, if not home. Next slide is going to be deep canvassing that gets deeper into that. But, even so, whether you're talking about community members or the press, it's really about those relationships. That's what, that's what determines whether the news covers you, is whether you have the relationship with the right person that they will, with their editor, cut you.
Yeah, me too. I've done that locally where, I don't remember what the first. It was about clean air in my local community. I live not very far from a big chemical plant, so there's just always horrible air quality where I live, and sometimes really awful smells. And so I talked to a local reporter once about it and told him my thoughts and just kind of related the chemicals and the fossil fuels to climate change and all, and started talking about a Green New Deal and everything. And we had a really great conversation for like an hour where I told him all this stuff, and he didn't know much about the Green Party, and he didn't know much about me or the Green New Deal or whatever. And so he was asking a lot of really genuine questions. I didn't know that about the Green Party. I didn't know that's what the Green New Deal was. And so now I know him. And so when I could send him emails and be like, I saw this article, and give him my feedback and comments. And talk to him. And I think it's really important to have those local connections with a reporter or a journalist where you can reach out to them. And it doesn't mean that they're going to publish everything you say or whatever, but you can have that influence on there. They might publish you, but even if not, I've given him the background, for example, about a Green New Deal. Now he knows to look for those kind of things that he wasn't thinking of before. And so you can kind of help lead the media to the right place, not only for your candidates, but also for your issues and the things you're organizing around. So it's all about having personal connections with the media and the people that live there. I want to point out that this particular slide comes from an organizing manual that was originally used in the Bernie Sanders campaign back in 1992, I think.
And I'll say Howie. So Howie sent this like printed on a printer, sent it to me in an envelope.
Yeah.
And he got it in either the 70s or 80s when he was working in Vermont with Bernie. Like the first editions of this.
Yeah.
So it's been a long.
And it's but what I especially like about it is that while Bernie Sanders is associated with the Democratic Party today, when he was originally running for mayor of Burlington, when he was doing this stuff in the manual and all, he was running as an independent candidate. And so, he organized and won as an independent candidate against, the local Democratic machine. And so there's a lot of important things to pick up here. And in particular, to remind ourselves that we can do it. We can beat the machine, but we have to organize for it. And these are some, I think, important tips to make connections with people in your community and the media. Building name recognition is very important. People will vote for you if they know who you are. If they don't know who you are, they're probably not going to vote for you, and they might not even be very interested in Google searching you or whatever, right? You have to make yourself known in the community, and you could do that through media and various things, creating literature and signs and all. And I think the most important thing here, which leads to the next slide, is making sure that you have a message together when you are talking and building those connections. Make sure you have a message and can talk to people, but also that you can listen to their needs and listen to their interests and relate those concerns and those interests to your platform, to the overall goal that we have as a green socialist movement. And so that's what it's referring to here with relating the genuine issues, like the really deep issues, to local terms. So when we talk about, for example, homelessness, you don't just say homelessness is an issue in the abstract. I mean, it is, but that has a hard time relating to people. They don't understand how that relates to their community. If you can say, I looked up the statistics and there's 500 homeless people in our community, then that's something that rings differently for them, because now instead of it being an abstract thing, now it's I didn't know that was in our community. What can we do about that?
And that's where the prep work comes in.
Right, that's where the prep work goes. And that's what I was saying about talking to that journalist, that he called me just to ask about if I smelled the poor air quality. And then I went into this whole thing about the Green New Deal and all, and how it was affecting our community. And they're building a plastics cracking plant just down the river from us. And so all of our poor air quality is because of the fossil fuels and all these things. So it's relating our bigger picture message of the Green New Deal to this is the result of it. We have horrible air quality where I live, where people get cancer and asthma, and it has direct impacts. And when you can relate that, now the ears are perked up, and now he's like, wait, tell me more about this thing, because it relates to the people here. People see that personally. They see the higher rates of asthma in kids and things in this area, and they say, this is so horrible. Why is this the case? Well, I can point you to it, and I can point you to a solution. And we can bring people around to these things by having personal conversations. And the best way to do that isn't necessarily social media and all. It's actually talking face-to-face. It's having door-to-door conversations, doing canvassing, in particular, deep canvassing. So I don't know if you have more comments, Chris, or the next slide.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to say, since we're talking about media, and there will be a media training, I think probably in May, is when I'm targeting. But I wanted to say, in the modern times, when we're talking about media, we're also talking about local podcasts, local blogs, local Facebook groups that are oriented around your issues and things like that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, when it comes with name recognition, especially in neighborhood, in places where there's still a community, right? Like after I graduated high school, my mom moved where she lived, and the place she lived, there was no community. It was a subdivision outside of a mid-sized town. Most people didn't know their neighbors. There was no real community. But in working class neighborhoods, there's still usually quite a bit of community. And in those cases, kind of like knowing the cameraman will get you on the news better than knowing the reporter. In those neighborhoods, you know the right person, and you got the name recognition, right? When I was a community organizer, we knocked 15,000 doors in my town of 100,000 people. So about half the doors got knocked, and in every single neighborhood, you could pretty quickly identify who was the person that was kind of at the center of that neighborhood and was a core person there, and you get them involved. You build the relationship with them, and they'll bring. It's like whipping in Congress, right? There's certain members of Congress that bring 20 people with them, and neighborhoods, the places that still have actual community in their neighborhoods, they've got that too. So if you can go in and you meet the right person, they can bring the whole neighborhood with you.